For those of you that want a luxury new construction home in the Pearland area, you are pretty much out of luck. At this point, there is one community that is left, and it is by no means a luxury master plan community. However, if you take a small short ride just south of Pearland, south of Broadway and Magnolia, you will see that there are a ton of options that are just south of them in that Manvel, Iowa Colony area. I'm standing in one of the most premier communities out this way. I am in Pomona, and it has luxury builders, great amenities, tons of walking trails and lakes in the community, and I think it's one that you are going to love. We're going to go through some of the pros and cons of living here. We're going to go through some of the builders and some of the incentives that they have right now. If that sounds good, stay tuned. So the first pro that I would say for this community is that it has great amenities. There is a fitness center on site. You have an event pavilion where there's going to be things happening, going on in here with games, as well as pool tables, all of that stuff. Behind me, you have a couple different pools. Around the corner from us, you have an actual full-size park. So there's just a lot of things that you have in this community that some of the other communities kind of out this way, especially the ones that are in Pearland that are still left, just don't have at this present time. And so another one of the pros of being in a community like this is that some of the other communities that are neighboring here don't allow you to build this big. I don't know if you can tell, but some of these are close to 4,000 or maybe 5,000 square foot homes behind me on this first row. And so that's also something that is a little bit different for this area. Usually if you want to get something super big, you'd have to go down a little bit more southwest out to Siena to get a wider footprint. But this is one of the communities that lets you build above a 55-foot wide lot out here in this region. So definitely one of the things to keep in mind. If you want something that's a little bit bigger, you want something that has nice amenities on site, then Pomona may be one of the first places that you want to stop. One of the other pros as I'm walking away from the amenity center is that, especially for those family, which a lot of y'all that reach out to me have young kids that are about to start school, you have your own elementary school on site, Pomona Elementary. So another one of those things where it's a very good rated, solid Alvin ISD school. It's for the Pomona kids. So many times when you have these communities that don't have their schools kind of ready yet, you're being funneled into a community school that may not be at the level or caliber of where you are currently with the home that you're buying in, the community that you're buying in, and you're just kind of with all the neighborhood kids of the places that were there before you. For the elementary school, that is not the case. Now, the middle school, you are tied to Rodeo Palms, which is another neighboring community out here in this Manvel kind of area. You're sharing that middle school currently, and then everybody pretty much out in this region funnels into Manvel High. That's not too dissimilar from Del Bello. That's the same as Meridiana out further south right now. So pretty much everybody in this region is going to the same high school once they get to that point. But one of the biggest pros is that you're basically walking distance from your elementary school if you have kids at that age right now. So another one of the perks of being in this community, as I mentioned before, are the luxury builders. Out here you still have Coventry. Perry Homes just recently sold out. You're going to have a smaller section, I believe the 45 foot section for Highland. Lennar is also doing that more entry-level product out here, as well as Toll Brothers. So you definitely have some heavy hitters out here. This is one of the communities that has most of the heavy hitters. The only people that we're missing out here right now is Weston and Newmark. But for the most part, everybody that people think of when they're either looking on my channel or they're reaching out for these big Texas style homes are here in this community. And you can go up to lots that are 70 foot plus out here, just depending on the builder and depending on your price point. So right now I'm going to step into this Coventry. I have a client that's actually finishing out building this model right here. I think it's gorgeous. This is going to get you in that like mid 4s to upper 5s, depending on how crazy you go with finishes and upgrades and things of that nature. We'll go check it out and let me know what you think. So what did you think about that Coventry model? This is on their 55-foot section right now. They have a couple more sections coming up, going up towards the 70-foot wide lots as well. So they'll have a few more in this section that they have left to build, and then they're gonna have a couple more sections of bigger lots as they continue to kind of grow throughout this community. Expectations of them being here is probably another year to 3 years, give or take, with the speed that they're selling right now. But definitely a gorgeous, gorgeous home. And I think that my client is going to be super happy when their home is finished here within the next month or so. But that is Coventry Homes. What did you think? Right now, we're going to go around the corner and probably check out some of their bigger models that they have before they move and go on to the new model home park that's coming up here soon within the next few months. So let's go check that one out. And then if Toll Brothers and the other builders are still open over there, we'll check those out as well. Oh, and before I forget, the incentives right now for Coventry, you have a few that you can pick from. So depending on whether or not you're building, whether or not you're doing an inventory home, it all is going to depend on kind of what your style is and what you're looking for. Right now, the three basic incentives that they have right now is zero towards closing costs. You can reduce pay down your interest rate, or you can have an extended rate lock depending on whether or not you're building or whatever. If you're catching one that's a little bit further out and then you're having to wait an extended amount of time to get to closing, you can also pay down and lock in your interest rate for a long extended amount of time using their incentives right now if you go through their lender. So that's some of the options right now. That's not too dissimilar. Right now, I believe they're promising on their quick move-in inventory homes interest rates that are 5.99 and below. So it really just depends on what makes the most sense for you. If it's getting that interest down a little bit lower to get maybe a lower payment, or if you want to lock that interest rate for something that's being built out, you can do that as well, but you do have options. So let's head on over to the next set of models. All right, so now we're about to step it up in price point, and we're going to go over to the 60+ foot sections over here in the community. We're looking at, again, another Coventry home behind me. Some of y'all may recognize this one. This is one of those homes that I did very early on in my YouTube career as a model home tour. But now we're going to go through here and check it out one more time because they're about to close up, pack up, and move to the new model home. So I just want to get in here one more time and show you what you can get somewhere in that like $700, probably $1,000 price point right now. Just based on the square footage and the lot size that you would be on. This is a premier community. So this is going to be on a 60+ foot lot, meaning that your starting price point is going to be mid to high sixes and go above that depending on the structural changes that you make for this style of home. But let's go check it out and let me know what you think. Beautiful home. I remember it just like the first time when I toured it. I think this one is gorgeous. And so incentives are going to be the same because this is Coventry. So you can pay down that interest rate. You can lock in a rate for a long extended period of time, or you can have zero closing costs. Depending on your specific situation, one may make more sense than the others, but unfortunately you can't have all three, so you would have to pick. But yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous home. I remember it like the first time that I saw it, and I still think that it is gorgeous. All right, so it looks like Toll Brothers is still open. We're gonna go and check them out right now, and let me know what you think, and compare this one to this Toll Brother that's coming up, and let me know which one you like a little bit more. That home was doing what Toll Brother does, just way too damn much, way too pretty. And you know, that's gonna be, Toll Brothers is gonna be one of those builders that push you up to that, like closer to $1 million price point out here, especially for something like that. With that being on the wider section, that's probably gonna be a start of 7-ish, just based on like the land width, and then you're gonna work your way up based on some of the structural changes and designs that you make. So you're definitely gonna be approaching $1 million on something like that, but let me know what you think. Now, one thing that we did not talk about, the big elephant in the room, and that is that property taxes out here are still above 3% without a homestead exemption. And so, you know, if you got something that is as big as the ones that we just saw, that's a $700,000 plus house, there's a potential that you could have a tax bill every year before homestead of around $21,000 a year, which is crazy for some, and especially for those of y'all that are coming from other places where the property taxes just aren't as high. Yes, you get a massive house. Yes, you get a ton of space and all of the stuff that you want, but that's something that you got to keep in mind, especially if you're coming from other places where you're just not used to having a tax bill that is that high. Where you're coming from though, that house may be $2 or $3 million. So there's going to probably be some gives and some takes depending on where you're coming from, but that is definitely something that you want to keep in mind. You're paying for mud taxes and school taxes. You're going to pay anywhere between 1% to 2% for those two things before you get to the other municipal taxes that are out here in this area. So definitely something to keep in mind. I think it's like 3.1, 3.2 as we stand right now. But that's definitely probably the biggest con, because the price points kind of are what they are. You're going to have a fairly chunky property tax bill every year. Now, another one of these kind of nitpicky cons that I come across when I am reviewing specifically Pomona, and I'll be fair and say that it is not new to Pomona. As someone that tours and has a lot of clients that come out based on the luxury, nice master plan communities that I put on my channel, this issue of not being big enough to, I guess, garner the attention of your own specific commercial infrastructure yet is not uncommon to many of the communities out here. You know, not everybody is a Sienna, not everybody is a Ellison, not everybody is a Bridgeland, not everybody is a Town Lake, right? So understanding that Pomona is one of those communities that, although they're trying to be the next it thing outside of Pearland, a lot of the things that they are relying upon are literally inside of Pearland. So your nearest like grocery stores are going to be in Pearland. Your nearest gas stations are likely going to be in Pearland. Doctor's office, all of these things that are essential to making a community like whole and complete. A lot of these communities out here in this Manvel kind of Iowa Colony area going more south of Pearland are all basing most of the things that they need and are deemed as essential are in Pearland. So you're still going to have some level of commute. Whereas if you were in a community, for example, like a Grand Central Park in Conroe that has their own 336 marketplace right within their community, or if you were in a Bridgeland and they have all the restaurants and things inside of the community, Town Lake, same thing. If you're in some of these more established, huge communities that have all of the commercial infrastructure and support inside the community, you don't really technically need the surrounding neighboring communities. But unfortunately, Pomona, Del Bello Lakes, Meridiana's at a point where you're starting to see them break ground and put little spots inside of their community for commercial support, but it's still not at the caliber or the level of a Bridgeland, of a Sienna, of a Grand Central Park, so on and so forth. So I definitely think this is a very nitpicky con, and it's one that I see it enough with so many of these nice communities where they just don't have the size or they're not at the phase of development yet where they've seen enough support to have a large sector of commercial infrastructure come in and really help. They're really piggybacking off of the nearest big city next to them, and Pomona is no different in that case. And to kind of show you what I mean, there is another community that's a little bit older, Sedona Lakes, that is right across the highway is where we just left. We were in Pomona, right across that little country road over there. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the nearest commercial infrastructure that you have to that. Is basically a Shipley's. We got an urgent care that's popped up. You have a CVS and a couple gas stations, but that is pretty much it, unless you want to get in your car and hop on over to Broadway or Magnolia, where you have some established restaurants and things, your malls and all that stuff. You're gonna still really need Pearland to have somewhere that you can say you are self-sufficient. And so that's being very nitpicky because, like I said, most of the communities that are coming out here in the greater Houston metro are like that at this point. At some point in time, they're going to have enough support and enough people in that area to support these big commercial partners coming into the community and making them more self-sufficient. But right now, Pomona's not one of those people. So what do you think? Did Pomona do enough? Is it enough for you to pass up on living in Pearland and being just south a little bit more in the country of Manvel? Did it do enough for you to call it home? If so, I would love to be a resource to you. They have some great luxury builders still out here, still have some opportunities to build and basically do whatever you want in this community. And I would love to be your resource and your go-to. I have a couple families moving out in this area, so I know that you'll love it. But tell me, how can I be of assistance to you? If you like this video and you like some of the models that you saw in this one, I absolutely know that you are going to love this community video right here.